it's book review time and I cannot wait to discuss this book. Also, we have a little friend here today, so I don't know how well this is going to go when he's in the background, but we shall see. So, the book we need to discuss is Stephen by Amy Cross, and this was a completely new book to me. I'd never heard anything about it until a few days ago when I saw it on TikTok, and there were people saying that it was quite extreme, quite disturbing, and I was like, well, that is me intrigued, we're going to add it to the TBR pile. And then obviously, because I'd engaged with that content, it just kept popping up more and more, and I was like, well, I'm just going to have to read it. We're going to have to go in there and see how bad it is. And I did it, and I loved it. What I will say is, I would recommend checking trigger content warnings for it. It does have some stuff in there that is very bizarre, could be quite triggering for some people, but I thought it was fine. There's very little that bothers me in books, so I did check out the content and trigger warnings, and I can see why some of the scenes would be quite disturbing, particularly for mothers. So that's perhaps why it didn't have quite the same effect on me, but it was just nuts. And we need to talk about it. So, like with all my other reviews, we're going to go spoiler free first, and then we will discuss some bits with spoilers, but I will give you plenty of warning if you want to click off and you don't want any spoilers. So, spoiler free review first. Stephen, for me, was very much like a gothic horror novel. It's set in 1899. With a governess going and working at some big country manor house. It's got great creepy vibes to start with already, just based off that. So the main character is Beryl, and she's grown up in a convent, so she knows very little about the real world, and then suddenly finds herself as a governess for this quite strange family. And she's looking after Stephen, that is the child that she's supposed to be taking care of. But Stephen is not a normal child. That is about all I can say without giving spoilers. And lots of really weird stuff happens in this house. Lots of really weird things happen with Stephen, and yeah, basically nobody in the town likes this family, so by extension they do not like Beryl. Beryl is very naive to the point of being quite stupid, and you probably will get to the point where you find her quite frustrating and unlikable, but I sort of think that is the whole point of her character. I don't think you're meant to particularly love her. I think you are supposed to be really on board with how naive and how stupid she is, but it does get a little bit grating in places, I will say that. So yeah, basically loads of weird stuff goes down. The chapter that everybody says to avoid in reviews is chapter 28, so naturally I was super excited to get to chapter 28, and in all honesty I could see what was coming. For me, I think if you can read between the lines quite well, chapter 27 is a whole chapter warning you not to read chapter 28. But if you can read between the lines of it, it's quite clear what direction that chapter is going to take. So I didn't find it particularly shocking because I could already tell what was going to happen. However, I can see how some more sensitive people probably would find it a step too far. That being said, you can actually skip chapter 28 and it not have a massive impact on the storyline. You can go straight to chapter 29 and carry on with the story if you wish. But it's just a bit nuts from there on out, to be honest. But I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. I raced through this book in a couple of days, and yeah, it was brilliant. Such a good horror novel for me. Really creepy, really atmospheric. So this next bit is not going to be spoiler free, so if you don't want any spoilers, click off, because we are going to go into a lot more detail about just how nuts this book was. but I don't want to give too much away because I feel like there's certain things in this book that you just have to discover for yourself. So, point number 1. Stephen, the child that Beryl is looking after, is no longer of this world. But his mother keeps him. He's not buried. And yeah, and that is basically like right from the start of the book, that is how nuts it is. That is how bonkers and bizarre and strange it is that she is looking after a child that is not living. So yeah, loads of stuff goes down in this house. They're a really weird family. Mum's just lost the plot. Obviously Mum's dealing with grief as well, which is obviously really, really tough on her. Dad doesn't seem to care all that much, to be honest. And then loads and loads of weird stuff goes down. Like I say, I'm not going to do as many spoilers as what I sometimes do for other books, because I feel like there's little pockets of greatness in this that you need to discover for yourself. There is a massive twist in this beyond chapter 28 that I'm not even going to discuss on here, because I'll probably get my YouTube channel taken down if we even went there with what that chapter's about. But there's a great twist in this book that I am not going to reveal, because it actually made me gasp out loud. It is that good, and I had no idea that that was coming, and honestly it was a real highlight. I am super glad I came across this book. Like I say, for me it wasn't as extreme as what people make out. I have read a lot of horror books, and like I said, there's very little that bothers me or upsets me when it comes to horror novels, so perhaps that's why. But yeah, I can see why chapter 28 would be a bit too much for some people. However, I do highly recommend reading it. It was a great book, absolutely perfect for this time of year. And yeah, I think I might have to give some other Amy Cross novels a go now, although I don't think any are going to be quite as bonkers as that was. But yeah, let me know if you've read Stephen, or if you plan on reading Stephen, and let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. And I will see you guys next time.